Digimon reference manual. As you know, we had to cut our last episode short due to weather conditions. That was also partially why I pushed this one back by 15 minutes. Still a little bit of thunder, but it shouldn't be too bad. I think we should be able to get a good bit through. That was my phone. First things first, I'd like to first promote one of my friends' Kickstarter. My friend's Kickstarter for Packing Heat, Fast and Brutal Squad on Squad Action Kickstarter is in its final days. It's almost there, ready to be funded. I would highly recommend looking at it just to help support them. I will be putting a link in the chat, into the chat, linking it. So yeah, go look at the Kickstarter and see about maybe backing. Like I said, it's in its last couple of days, so let's see if we can go for. 2 weeks ago, thunder, not a heat wave. Hope you're okay. Yeah, really right now the issue is thunder, so we'll see how that goes. I don't think it's going to be that bad. Now, as you all know about the rules on this, basically I look at a Digimon, I give my opinion on it, I read the description, both the standard and if it has an X antibody, the X antibody description. I go over what I like about the design, what I dislike about the design, and what I would do to change the design. I have to give at least one thing in each, and I can't just be vague and be like, oh, well, this is a pretty good Digimon. No, I have to actually give some criticism, some constructive something. I can't just be vague. Now, as you all know, we got about technically 5 in last time. We ended up on Alomon X antibody, and to address the situation for armor digivolutions, that they will not be considered unless they're weird like the X antibodies. The armor evolutions will be given their own series, probably after the champions, since as far as I can tell, most armor digivolutions are roughly champion level. Armor evolutions are very weird, and their consistency is unusual. Sometimes they go that they're champions, sometimes they don't. It's very weird. So, once I'm done going over the Digimon, I give about 20 seconds to ruminate. 20 seconds to think on the Digimon, to give you guys all to react, and then we go from there. Remember that this is almost audience participation, so if there's something you'd like to say or put your own thoughts on, I'm open to communication. We of course have the chat open. Other things, if we reach 500 subscribers, I'll look into opening a Discord for the channel. As for my review of the Discotheque and O2 movie, script writing has been completed. I just have to do recording. That may take a little bit, but we are getting close to that. So without further ado, let's continue on with Alomon, specifically the X antibody. An armored dinosaur Digimon that is digivolved with the Digi-Egg of Courage. Particularly ferocious among dinosaur Digimon, Alomon has a hostile relationship with fellow dinosaur Tyrannomon. It possesses powerful legs, allowing it to run at breakneck speeds by putting its head down and taking a horizontal stance. Its signature move, Dino Burst, spews out wind at extremely high temperatures. Effects of X antibody on Alomon's Digicore. Its leg strength has developed even further, giving it the agility of a Digimon much smaller than itself. Alomon, X Antibody's running speed has increased as well, but many Digimon have seen this large creature soaring through the air to swoop down and catch its foes. Adapting to its agile body has acquired a new special move, Dino Flash, which it uses to fire ultra-hot wind from its mouth in a flash. Neat. So as we can see from the design, we're going towards an Allosaur concept, again, Alomon. They're going really heavy into the Native American headdress, which I believe Alomon is connected to Hawkmon, which had its own connection to Native American concept. So what I like about the design, It's different from a Tyrannomon and Greymon, specifically Greymon, because there are so many Greymon designs out there. So it's interesting to see another dinosaur Digimon out there that is in this design. It's interesting that they use the blue and red. The headdress going into back scales is an interesting touch. Added in, not what is it, a cloth mantle, a bunch of feathers. I like that they integrate the headdress into the back scales, the back spikes. That's an interesting design element. Things I don't like, I think they could have added maybe some. I think I'm not a big fan of the blue. I realize blue and red are complementary colors, but it's a bit off, I would say, especially since Hawkmon is predominantly a red Digimon, and I think it would have been beneficial to maybe add a little more red to the design. I know they add a lot with the cloth and the stripes. I think it would help them to add maybe a few more stripes. And since this is an X antibody, I would also suggest having an X somewhere on the design, whether on the chest or on its jewelry, somewhere to indicate that this is an X antibody. One of the issues with Armor Digimon is let's briefly touch on standard Alamon just to show the difference, because we're looking at this without context. We're going to look at Alamon real quick to see how much they've changed. You see, comparing the X antibody version to the original, I think I prefer the original with the additional red to it, but the headdress I do prefer on the X antibody. I do feel they need to add an X somewhere on the design, something to indicate an X antibody. So things I like that it's something other than a Greymon. It's other than a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I like the headdress going into the back scales. I don't like that they have this much blue, and I would change it by adding in more red stripes and perhaps even a red X or an X somewhere on the design. And with that, we're going to go into 20 seconds. I'm also going to have some water just to help my throat. Yes, it's Dasani. I don't care. It's water. So that was about 30 seconds. I know I said 20. I'm using a little stop timer, sand timer. So we're going to move on to the next design, Angemon. An angel Digimon with 6 shining wings and a body clad in divine white cloth. You sure about that? This being of absolute goodness is said to bring happiness, and Angemon remains utterly composed in the face of evil, attacking relentlessly until its foe is annihilated. Legend has it that Angemon has often descended at the head of a host of other Digimon of the same species when the digital world was in crisis. It is also said that Devimon, who was won over to the dark side, was originally of the same species. Angemon's special move is Heaven's Knuckle, by which it pummels its foe with shining fists of gold. Okay, that actually helps me with something. So, first off, that's not white, that's blue, but they may be doing the color difference because Angemon is wearing a white suit, whatever, and so they need to differentiate between the white suit and the white cloth, and you can't make it blue because that makes it Devimon. As for the wings, I'm not entirely certain which angel type has 6 wings. I know there's a specific thing with that. I don't know it. They don't teach that much in church. reading the design, this actually helps confirm something I had read. So, if you ever look at Angemon's design, you'll notice that he has some nubs on his chest, and that seems to come from nowhere. It's like, what is this? And I remember reading somewhere that it said that's a reference to Fist of the North Star, because in that, Kenshiro has the, I think it's the Ursa Major? No, or the Big Dipper. One of those marks on his chest. And the nubs on Angemon's chest references that. I've heard someone say that it was Leomon's, but after reading this description and hearing pummeling its foes with shining fists of gold, that tells me this is a Fist of the North. This tells me this is more than likely a Fist of the North Star reference, which is odd, but Fist of the North Star was a popular anime, so a lot of these things do come up. We don't have a good art style here because it's pretty in the back, but going off of the design, I think what I like about it is they went a different depiction of Angel. A lot of times when you look at pictures of angels, they either look like Roman, almost like Roman soldiers with spears and everything, which is to be expected. The Catholic Church had a lot of influence on that, Roman Catholic Church. So you see a lot of that Roman influence. Or they tend to be very otherworldly. In this, they try to make a being that's very beautiful, sort of. At least I think that's the attempt. So I appreciate that it's a different design. What I don't like about the design is how complicated it's going into this. This is mainly just the artwork here, because this is pretty bad art. But we have a lot of things going on into this design. And it can be a little hard to read what exactly is going on into here. Personally, I would cut a lot of this extra Final Fantasy gribble off of the design because it doesn't add anything. I also think the Fist of the North Star reference, wow, that's cool, and in hindsight makes sense. It really pulls from the design, and I think it adds unnecessary complexity to what this is. Wonder if there'll be a biblically accurate angel Digimon. I mean, given what we've seen with Digimon, they've had a lot of similar concepts of designs similar to that. Some of the holy Digimon tend to lean towards that, although they also lean more towards the Catholic design, Hand of Fate. Oh, okay, you're talking about the big circle thing, yeah. Really, concept of angels in pop culture can vary. I'll say that looking at Has Been Hotel, I realize they have to make the designs look appreciative, so you can't go too wild with it. I would say the only show or game that really made the angelic thing work. Probably Doom, of all things. But even then, that doesn't really fit. But as for Angemon, it's a too complicated design, and if I were to change it, I would simplify many of these elements. The Fist of the North Star reference is neat, but it's unnecessary and actually confuses the design. The Final Fantasy belts, a bit excessive, and really, this is a design that needs to be simplified. It looks better in the show, and again, this is bad artwork. There are much better artwork of Angemon, but other than that, things I like. I like that they took biblical inspiration. I appreciate the Fist of the North Star reference What I don't like is just how complicated this design is, and if I were to change it, I would simplify it. Just omit so much of this Greeble and Final Fantasy stuff. So, we're going to go into 30 seconds. Going to drink some water. Remember to drink water, y'all. It's hot out there. It's going to get hotter, I hate to say it. And I need to get a thinner jacket or thinner clothes because 30 seconds have passed. Ankyliomon. An armored dragon Digimon completely covered in hardened skin. Though protuberances cover... I don't know how to say that name. Protuberances cover it all over, giving its charge attack incredible destructive power. Although it is a herbivore, it lacks ferocity. Ha! Ankyliomon displays a brave nature nonetheless. Its special move, Megaton Press, sends it surprisingly high into the sky, after which it slams its massive body down onto the enemy. It uses Tail Hammer to ferociously beat the enemy with the iron ball on the tip of its tail. Any Digimon hit with this technique has its entire skeleton or wireframe utterly obliterated. So, it's based off an Ankylosaur. Interesting that they omitted the Thagomizer. That's a dragon? I always thought it was a dinosaur. So, one of the things that a lot of time when it comes to dinosaurs, one of the common things that some cultures had when they saw these bones is they oftentimes they confuse it with something else. Dinosaurs as dragons is the most common one, although in the case of the Greeks, they actually confused the mammoth for the Cyclops. Saying this is a dragon is more than likely a reference to that, but given the name, it's an Ankylosaur. I'm intrigued that they turned the Thagomizer into a spike ball, which is an interesting design. As for saying it's a herbivore and calm, no. Some of the most dangerous animals out there are herbivores. Case in point, the animal that's killed the most in Africa is the hippopotamus. You do not mess with herbivore animals. They can be nasty, especially when they have spikes, because they can be pretty dangerous. That's not to say carnivores aren't dangerous, it's just herbivores can be nasty. As for the design, you have an Ankylosaur. Obviously, it's the next evolution of Armadillomon. Ankyliomon, things I like that they've made it look like this spiky dinosaur, which is neat. They've kept its connection to Armadillomon. Things I don't like. Things I like that they made it extra spiky, and the inclusion of the spike ball is interesting because usually they'll just add a Thagomizer. For those who don't know, at the end of a Ankylosaurus, at the end, if you ever see a dinosaur with a bunch of spikes on the tail, that's called a Thagomizer. That comes from a newspaper comic where they joked about something called a Thagomizer, and it's since gone on to become the official term. Things I don't like this head. It reminds me of the JetX logo, and it just kind of looks off. I think if I were to change the head, what I would probably do is omit these jester ears, since they kind of pull away from the design, and I would probably make this armor plate a little more angular. It's an okay design, especially as an Ankylosaur, but again, that head really pulls away from me. It just, I don't know. It pulls the eyes away from the rest of the design, especially pulling away from the Thagomizer, which is what you kind of want to emphasize in the design. So, things I like just how spiky it is, and that they've done something unique with the Thagomizer. I don't like the head. I feel like they could. It pulls too much away from the rest of the design. And if I were to change it, I would omit the jester ears and probably make the armor plate on the head a little more angular. So, 30 seconds. Now, it's actually interesting because I would have thought Ankylamon was one of the armored Digivolutions. It's not. I guess that makes sense. O2 didn't use a lot of the champion Digivolutions. They used armor for a while. O2 is weird. Well, it's not weird. It's alright. Although I will say the film is... Apemon. A legendary Beastman Digimon with golden fur. Many sightings of Apemon have been reported in the Central Asian region and network, of course, but no actual evidence of its existence has yet been found. Since it's extremely rare and reportedly excels at defeating malicious computer viruses, some humans consider it to be a mythical Digimon, of course. It is also said to travel at extremely high speed within the network by riding on some sort of cloud. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Of puff or puff of smoke. Its special move is Angry Spike, by which it fires out hardened tufts of metallic fur. Okay, this is just Sun Wukong. I'm gonna level with all of you. I don't like Sun Wukong-esque designs just because to me they don't seem to innovate and they're always about the same. And before anyone says, well, Goku is different, yes, Goku is different, and in hindsight, I actually appreciate Toriyama for doing something unique with the Sun Wukong concept. As for this, it's just Sun Wukong. Okay, but let's move on from that. What I like about the design is they really made it be a ape, like a ferocious ape monster, and they went more towards the, remembering that story, some of the more wild aspects of Sun Wukong. And apes in general. Monkeys are incredibly dangerous as animals. You do not want to mess with them. If they smile at you, it means they're about to attack. They're baring their teeth. And so they really made this be a ferocious animal. The club on its back, interesting concept. I also like that they remember that, hey, monkey feet can be almost like hands at times. Things I don't like about the design, not taking into account the Sun Wukong references. First off, they need to do something better with the artwork, but that doesn't count. I think if I were to change this design, probably omit some of these feathers. I know that these are tufts of fur, and that's kind of what Digimon does at times, but I feel it's a bit excessive in this. As for what I would change, I would want to add something like because this is a holy Digimon, given off of what it says, I would want to add a holy anklet to one of the legs, in addition to the ring, just to emphasize that this is a vaccine Digimon. Other than that, I will say I do appreciate that it's not a one-to-one Sun Wukong thing. They didn't add the Phoenix crown. That they went more of, this is a ape that attacks things. And I appreciate that. Actually, I'll go out on a limb and say for a champion level, this does feel like a champion, and I'll actually give it the perfect. Mostly because it feels what I expect from a champion Digimon, something a bit higher than a rookie, but not too powerful. It doesn't feel like overcomplicated, and I think that's what I like about the design. It's not too overly complicated. So things I like, uh, I like I like that they kept up the ape design. What I don't like is the weird feather tufts, and I would probably change it by adding in another ring somewhere on the design. So 30 seconds. And so now we move on to the next Digimon. Aquilamon. A giant bird Digimon with two massive horns growing from its head, known as the Great Eagle of the Desert. Aquilamon flies through the skies at Mach speed and can seek out distant enemies with its keen eyesight. The horns on its heads are immensely powerful when it glides down and rams into enemies. Many bird Digimon are brutal, but Aquilamon respects decorum and obeys the orders of the master it has pledged allegiance to without fail. It uses its special move, Glidehorn, to charge enemies from the heavens, or Blast Laser to fire ring-shaped beams with thunderous roar. So basically, this is the Thunderbird from Native American mythology, Native American religion, however you want to put at it. Again, obviously, it's connected to Hawkmon, and we can see that continuation of Hawkmon's design. You know, red bird, extra feathers connecting to the headdress the headband he wore. So I like the idea that they made a bird and it's a hawk. Well, it's an eagle. Really, I don't have much to say about the design. It's pretty decent. What I like is they clearly understood the assignment. It's a very basic design, don't get me wrong. I would say you could add a little bit of complexity to, but otherwise it fits the prompt. What I don't like, personally, I'm not a big fan of horns on designs, so to me the horns are a bit excessive. Personally, I would omit them, but I can see that they're important to the design. And I'm not going to pull the whole, well, they need to add more Native American filigree. No. That I will say I'm appreciative that they didn't go almost caricature with it. They went in their own path. I think if I were to go with horns, probably change the horns to some other design, but I don't know exactly what. Maybe something a little more thunderous, maybe something a little more just forward spike. I don't know. I think something about the horns need to be either omitted or changed. Maybe make it that the horns look like feathers as if to hide that. Sorry, that's my phone. Otherwise, I'm going to give this design a perfect, because I can see that connection to Hawkmon, and I do like the concept. So things I like is it really does feel like a champion. It has that connection to Hawkmon, and it's a simple design that you could add a little bit more, but it didn't need to have it. What I don't like is the horns, but that's just mostly because I don't like horns too often. And I think if I were to change it, I would change this to a different style of horn, or maybe even hide it so that the horns look like they're feathers, to imply that it's, it looks great, but you got to be careful because those feathers might be horns. But yeah, it's a pretty good design. I just kind of wish O2 used this a bit more, to the point that the armor evolution that they use for Hawkmon is the one I recognize more than this. So 30 seconds. In other news, Steam sale's coming up, so it's going to be interesting to see what we all get. Don't know what I'm going to be looking into. I will see about getting the next Digimon game, but we'll see how that pans out. Argomon. Argomon, after it has digivolved into a champion form, abnormally increases its processing power. Its power is also increased, and it can lift even larger foes with its hands that have become industrial manipulators. It uses its special move, Imprisonment, to restrain foes with tentacles extending from its mouth, or Volt line to shoot an electrical volt through an enemy. Argumon. So here we have another virus type. I don't like it. I think so. Looking at the design, they're going with a mutant-esque design, very unearthly, unhuman. Almost jellyfish-esque. What I don't like about the design is we already have something similar like this called Caramon, and I feel Caramon does this concept a lot better. This feels like it doesn't, like they don't know what they were trying to go with this. Now, I will say I do like the jellyfish concept, but again, we already saw that with Caramon. And I really think Caramon did this design better. If I were to change this outside of just a massive redesign, I probably would omit these manipulators, because it overcomplicates the design and pulls the design language into what is this. Really, this is not a design I like, especially since we have Caramon and Caramon's line. Now, I realize this is probably sticking to what I think I know what the problem is. It reads too much like a rookie. This reads way more like a rookie. I'm comparing it to Caramon, and Caramon is a rookie. This is a champion. That's my problem with it. It feels like a rookie. I'm comparing it to a rookie, and the rookie is beating a champion. As for looking at the other design, Argomon mutant virus. Here we have another that's the smaller version. I don't know. I think this design just doesn't work. So things I like the jellyfish design. What I don't like is the arms. And if I were to change this, I would probably make it easier to read, and overall just redo this entire design, because it does not work. This, I think, is a failure of a champion design. When did this appear? This Ascension. This is something I kind of wish the encyclopedia would add, is if they add a year of adding. I know some of the early designs they do add if it was part of a contest. And I kind of wish they would add, first appearance, which would either be the game or a show or something, because I think this has appeared in the 2020 anime. But yeah, this is not a good design. And I apologize if I've angered anyone that does like this design, but to me, this doesn't work. It doesn't really work like a Digimon. It doesn't work as a champion. It, to me, reads more rookie. But yeah. I'm actually surprised with GOG that Digimon World 1 has not yet come out yet. Then again, there might be something else going on behind the scenes. Arrest Dramon. Arrestromon digivolved from Gumdramon when it was released from its Koji binding. Clad in battle armor made from a unique variety of rubber, Arrestromon has taken the flexibility that was Gumdramon's greatest strength to the next level and also increased its defense. What's more, its large wings make it capable of high-speed flight, and with its new tail anchor, it can perform cutting and slicing attacks, as well as wrap up its foes if it so desires. Its special moves are Mach Flicker, by which it stretches its limbs to deliver a high-speed punch, Flog Shot, by which it slices it into foes by spinning its tail anchor, Spin Caliber, by which it cuts its opponent in two by enlarging its tail anchor while rotating its body, Spiral Shredder, by which it shreds its enemies by spinning around at high speed, and Prism Garrote, which takes spiral shredding to the next level by adding countless spinning lights. So basically, we've made Gimp the Digimon. Rubber. So, I joke about that. But they really did add in the whole rubber aspect, but maybe they went a bit too far with it. I will say it is interesting that they brought up that rubber can be both protective as well as stretchy. There are a lot of items that you do want rubber coated for protection, either because it dampens or restrictive, or it can provide some shock absorption while also being malleable. As someone who works with airsoft, especially air guns, rubber O-rings are incredibly useful for pressure sealing. So that's interesting they went into that. The problem I have with that concept is nothing about this really says rubber, except maybe the chaps. But I think if they kept up the arrestor Dramon, or perhaps kept up this is like a bounty hunter, I think that concept would work a little better. But going the route of rubber, there's the implication aspect, but also this doesn't read rubber or gum or what have you. So I think the concept needs a little bit of work. They also went very in depth with the abilities. That was a lot. As for the design itself, it really does. It feels like a bounty hunter or someone that restricts things either through capturing or just bounty hunting, which is a neat concept and I think fits. What I don't like is... I think I'll say what I don't like is this tail. Because if you're going the route of it's rubber or it's restrictive, this is a bit of an odd element because it's metallic. And I would almost say you may just want to keep this as like a rubber tail, as if to indicate that it's more like a whip. It's going to be real hard to talk about this. You're not Devimonning it. We're already going into BDSM. What on earth, Digimon? But I think you need to add something that indicates a bounty hunter. Maybe cuffs or something. Cuffs, maybe... Okay, I think that's probably my biggest problem with this design. You bring up restriction and rubber and all, and it immediately leads to that BDSM aspect, which I know is not what they're going for, but it gets that unfortunate implication. I think that's my problem with this design, with this concept. And nothing about this indicates rubber, really. I think what I would change with the design is I think what I would change is omit this spike and probably add more black to the design. Keep it simple with black, purple, and orange. I think the red is a bit much. So I guess I'll say things I like about the design. I like that it looks something like a bounty hunter. What I don't like is it really doesn't lean into the rubber aspect, and elements that do make me feel like it's going a bit too close to the BDSM aspect, which isn't what it's supposed to. I think it should go more in towards the bounty hunter aspect. As for what I would change, I would omit this spike. Really, this is a design. They have something here, but it needs some work. But yeah, that's what I would do. It's certainly a design. So 30 seconds. I think my problem with this is just the concept. It leads to too many implications, and I don't know how to feel about that. So moving into the next design, Atamadekachimon. I think that's how you pronounce it. A dinosaur Digimon with an unbalanced head and body. Atamadekachimon has trouble walking due to its heavy head, which is always knocking into and breaking objects, although it never does this on purpose. It hates to fight and overflows with maternal feelings. It always looks after Mimidekachimon, raising it in its mouth to protect it. Atamadachimon... Atama. Oh, I get it. Atama. Talks so loudly that Mini-Dekachimon has to cover its ears. Did I tell you I'm trying to learn Japanese? Uses drum blast... It uses drum blasts to shout at max volume and restrict the opponent's movement, and then takes the opportunity to swing its head down and flatten the enemy with head crush. Mini Dekachimon also cooperates using Mini Deki Flame to spit fire from its mouth, but there's no way to tell if the flame will be big or small. Let me check something, because I think Atama may be Japanese for mother. I could be wrong, and I can't wait for someone to say that. How dare you get that wrong? No, that's Oka. No, that's Oka. Oka. So I don't know where Atama comes from. As for the design, it's a T-Rex. It's interesting that they bring up the carrying the baby in the mouth, because that's something that I think alligators and crocodiles do. So that's an interesting design. It's a simple design, basically a big-headed dinosaur. So I think they're going towards a Tamagotchi-esque. I'm an idiot. It literally is a Tamagotchi. It's a Tamagotchi reference. It's a simple design. It works. I think what I like about it is they didn't go overboard with the design. It's very easy to read. What I don't like about the design, it's a T-Rex, and we've already seen a couple of those already. I kind of wish they would have done something a little different, a different dinosaur. As for what I would change, I'm not going to say the name. I think if I were to change this, I would probably add some bit of complexity to the design, because it does feel a little too simple. You know, there are times when you can be too simple with the design and too complex with the design, and I think this leans more towards the too simple. So what I like about it is it's a fairly easy to read design, even if the name is hard to pronounce. I don't like that it's another T-Rex. I kind of would prefer if they did something else. And what I would change is probably complicate the design a little more. Maybe add some color or something, because this needs a little more to the design than just red dinosaur. So 30 seconds. So how is everybody? I'm doing all right. What the? Hold on, let me just quickly do this. Staying alive, hate having sickle cell trait. Ooh, yeah. Sickle cell can... Yeah. My condolences. On the other hand, you do have an immunity to I think one disease, but on the other hand, is that worth the sickle cell? My knowledge on sickle cell is limited. I say as someone who was trying to be a doctor. But man, it's good to hear that you're alive and doing well. It's always good to see you here, Randomon565. Next Digimon is Baboongamon. I think we know what this is a reference to. A highly territorial beast Digimon, Baboongamon prefers to live in areas with steep changes in elevation such as cliff and rocky mountains. The characteristic rock that covers parts of its hide grows back harder each time it's broken, and the individual with the hardest rocky covering acts as the boss of any given region. Okay, so it's an orc. Its special move includes Mount Stone, where it attacks by throwing the rocks that cover its arms, and Glide Rocks, which involves ramming its rock-encrusted tail into foes at high speed. So, we've got a baboon, which, yes, as we know with baboons, they are highly territorial. Again, with monkeys and apes, you want to be very careful. They are very dangerous animals. It's interesting they're adding in the rock aspect. Would not have expected that. My understanding is baboons are a mountain ape style animal. I could be wrong with that. It's been a while since I've looked into it. The design is fairly simple, but you still have some added elements of complexity. What I like about the design is they took the baboon with elements of the red face and ears, and they augmented it with rocks. If I were to have a Gatsumon, I think I would want its champion form to be this, just because it's something different than just rock guy. What I don't like about the design is the tail. I think this can be omitted, and it would fix the design. As for what I would change, maybe add some more rocks to the armor and the hide, because I don't know, you kind of want this to look like an armored up monster, and I think adding some extra rocks might help the design. I'm going to give this the perfect. I think as a champion, it's a very good concept and it's well executed. So things I like that they took a concept and made it work. They took a baboon and added neat little elements like the rock armor. What I don't like is the tail, as I think that could be omitted. And what I would probably change is add more rock armor. You know, I would like to see this as a champion level to a Gatsumon. So, yeah. Very good design. 30 seconds. In other Digimon news, I have not yet seen DigiDestiny's one-shot. I haven't seen it fully. I've seen a good chunk of it, but not all of it. And every now and then I'm debated doing a review of that entire series. Bakemon. A ghost Digimon with a cloth over its body. Bakemon is a wicked being born from the darkness, and computers possessed by it are said to have had their systems destroyed in an instant. What's inside that cloth is a matter of mystery, and the shadow it casts under its true form is thought to be some kind of black hole. Bakemon lacks attack power and thus doesn't like attacking directly. Its special move, Hell's Hand, casts a powerful curse. Anyone lacking a powerful mind will die in seconds when cursed by Death Charm. This reminds me of some of the early Digimon where they add these ultra-powerful concepts and the like. It's a ghost. We have your It's interesting because it's a bedsheet ghost, but it still reads ghost. Like, I think the problem with a lot of bedsheet ghost designs is they end up looking like Casper. And Casper the Friendly Ghost can be scary, but again, it's Casper. This at the very least looks like a ghost. I do like the the mouth. It has that creepy mouth claw look that really adds that this is a scary monster. So I like this concept. What I would probably change, maybe add some hands or some type of claws underneath the bedsheet hands, just to give the idea that this can slice something. That's probably what I would change with it. As for what I dislike, I don't think I can change it. I don't think there's anything I really dislike about this. Oh shit. It's a simple design that makes it work, and I can't really think of anything that I dislike about it. I guess maybe there's nothing about this I dislike. Huh. I'm going to give this the perfect, just because I can't think of something I dislike about the design. It's It's a simple design. It's a simple concept in a design that works so well. I like the mouth. I like the simple concept. I like that this isn't just a bed sheet, it's a tattered bed sheet. I think if I were to change anything, I'd probably add like a sickle or something underneath the hands. Really, I can't think of anything I would change with this. I can't really think of anything I would dislike. I'm going to give it the perfect. Like, this is something you want to shoot for. Huh. And it's Bakemon. Bakemon, out of everything, is the one that I'm like, I can't find something I dislike about it. What on earth? This is one of the funny things when you go through the encyclopedia. You just find designs that it's like, is Bakemon's ultimate form a Bakemon with a hat? Let me check that. Because I think Bakemon digivolves into Reapmon. No, we need the Wikimon. One of the things I don't like about Digimon, especially looking at the designs with the wikis, is you've got two wikis. You have the Digimon wiki and you have Wikimon. And Wikimon is substantially better. So Bakemon has a form called Phantomon, which is the Reaper design. Is it Soulmon? Yeah, it has an ultimate called... Yeah, there is a version of Bakemon called Soulmon that has a witch's hat. But the thing is, that's still listed as an adult, so that's not really a ultimate, that's just a side evolution. Yeah, that's Soulmon. Renamon 565. Bakemon with a hat is Soulmon. We're actually gonna cut this through and bring that up. If it's here, it should be. Normally I don't do this, but sometimes these Digimon have weird designs that just kind of appear. Soulmon. There it is. Soulmon. So yeah, this is another Bakemon, but it's not a ultimate, it's another champion. Which is odd. But yeah, you have another Bakemon, there's another evolution. I think that is one of those issues of it was early Digimon, and a lot of those designs were just, let's take a current design we have and add something a little to it. You see this pop up from time to time. But we'll hold off on Soulmon for now. Ballistamon. A heavyweight Digimon with a thick metal shell and overwhelming power. It appears belligerent at first glance, but Ballistamon's gentle personality favors peace over conflict, and it never attacks on its own accord. Even so, if a fight breaks out, it becomes a champion of unparalleled power, swinging around its strong arms to eradicate foes. Its heavy armor and incredible power offer high potential for both offense and defense. Ballistamon's forte is unleashing attacks that utilize its power and kill in a single blow if they land. That seems like a mistranslation. Its massive body is its downfall, however. Slow in mind and body, it does poorly against fast and nimble foes. However, my apologies. Heavy Speaker demolishes opponents with the low-frequency sounds emitted from the speaker on its chest. This technique hides the power to crush rocks and shake mountains, and only grows as it gets hungry. Furthermore, Ballistamon is proud of the horn on its head, the cornerstone of its close-range attacks, and hates for anyone to touch it carelessly. Its signature move is Hornbreaker, whereby it uses its horn to gallantly throw its opponents. Ballistamon can also lend its armor and power to other Digimon in its enhanced armor mode. So it's a rhinoceros beetle mech. For those who don't know, beetle fighting is very popular in Southeast Asia, especially Japan. So if you ever see kids with beetles or like beetle fighting, it's our, heroes that are beetle elements. It's usually a reference to beetle fighting. And the horn, the rhinoceros beetle, is well known for that heavy horn on front. And part of that fighting is it flips another rhinoceros beetle over. As for Ballistamon's design, it's a mech. It leans into a robot. I feel it's a bit too Tokusatsu-esque, but on the other hand, we're kind of leaning towards that Sun Wukong element. I'm meh when it comes to Tokusatsu. Overall, it's an interesting mech design. It's an interesting design. What I don't like, I think they could have leaned a bit more into the beetle aspect, because as is, it just kind of looks like a mech with a giant horn. The problem is you're leaning into two areas. One is this is a beetle, and the other is it's a speaker, and that kind of conflicts with one another. Beetles can be loud, but I don't think this fits. I think if I were to change this, I would either go more into the beetle aspect or the speaker aspect. And at the moment, this doesn't really fit either. So what I like is, I like it's a robot. I like that concept. I don't like the I what I don't like is it doesn't seem to go further into either the beetle or the speaker aspect. And if I were to change it, I would probably either go full beetle or full speaker. And we're going to give it 30 seconds. Check my phone real quick. So I think we're going to do one more Digimon for today. And that's going to be Botluckimon. End quote. These holy beast Digimon are confirmed to exist in droves in ruins excavated from underneath Folder Continent. These ruins have been recognized to have once been used as a fortress for angel species Digimon. It is conjectured that the herds of Botluckimon were defenders of this fortress. While calm and gentle by nature, Botluckimon also possesses a ferocious side that causes it to attack enemies unrelentingly. Highly intelligent, Botluckimon will perceive an invader's hostility in an instant, and then use psychic chain to constrict its opponent's body with psychokinetic chains and drive them away. For those who unwittingly stumble into the ruins, it will use cloud vision to emit a cloud that shows illusions, luring them out of the ruins in a dreamy daze. I think this is the champion version of that one rookie whose name eludes me. Tapirmon. I believe this is the champion version of Tapirmon, or if it isn't, it feels like it's that connection. It's a holy beast somehow, which kind of implies it's connected to Andromon and the angels. Kind of a weird design, not going to lie. I think they're trying to go for a horse or a goat-esque design, but you're leading into this weird mystic. I'm almost wondering if it's supposed to be a reference to a Silky, but that wouldn't fit the holy beast aspect. It's a reference to something, and I'm not entirely certain what. Let me look this up on the Wikimon. For all I know, it's a reference to Jim Belushi. We have no entomology. Oh, name and entomology. Okay, Botluckimon is based on Parasauranthium, commonly known as junior synonym Botlucitherium, an extinct genus of hornless rhinoceros lion animals that were the largest land mammals known to have ever existed. Okay, I see. So it's a reference to an extinct rhinoceros-esque animal. That's interesting. I read that off of Wikimon. I highly recommend looking at Wikimon now. I almost want to see what the other designs say. What I like about the design, it looks like an armored up ancient animal. What I dislike, I don't know how to read this. On one hand, you have the armor plates, and it does feel like an ancient ancient animal. On the other hand, it feels weird. I don't know how to describe it. It feels off. Like they didn't fully finish it or something. What I would probably change is possibly add more armor segments or armor elements to it. But otherwise, it's a weird design. I think it's just, to me, it's an off design. So, honestly, it looks like something out of Age of Sigmar. So, things I like, I guess I like its connection to Holy Digimon and the Hornless Rhinoceros concept. What I don't like is it's very hard to read what it's supposed to be exactly. And if I were to change it, I'd add more armor. So, 30 seconds. So, with that all being said, again, we'll be ending today on Botluck. Not much else to say. Pretty neat little time we went through. We actually went through a good couple of the champions. As for where we're going, hopefully I will be looking at more Digimon the next 2 weeks. Following that, if Digimon World gets released onto Steam or GOG, I'll look into getting that, but we don't know how that's going. Final things I'll be saying. Still working on the O2 review. Don't know when that will come out, but that's something I'll be working on next. In addition, I highly recommend you guys look at Packing Heat by Johan Davis. Johan Davis. Johan. He's a friend of mine. He worked on Mobius. He worked on What a Tanker 40K. I believe he also worked on Chain of Command, the Falkland Wars edition. He's worked a lot with Peter Pig. My apologies. Three Fat Lardies. Peter Pig is a different company. I highly recommend looking at his Kickstarter. It's posted in the chat logs. Highly recommend looking at this. It's almost done backing, and this is like the last couple of days before this Kickstarter ends. I'm just full disclosure, I'm not associated with this at all. This is just a friend trying to help a friend. So, like I said, look up Packing Heat, Fast and Brutal, Squad on Squad action on Kickstarter. And with that, we will be ending this stream. See you all next time, and hopefully we'll get through more of the Digimon. And hopefully Packing Heat will be backed. And Digimon World 1 will be on GOG. We have a lot to look forward to. Bye!